Hi, and welcome to the Honestly Friends podcast with Day and Lee, where we talk about life, love, friendships, and the culture. Day, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Was that too loud in your ear? I'm sorry. I'm excited.
No, not
Okay.
good. I'm like, what? No, we're good. We're Gucci.
Gucci, Gucci.
So, I have a friendship topic, my faves. Um, it's
I'm
not
here
even
for
really
it.
a friendship topic, it's a people topic. Um, but this is what it is. So, I saw something like a couple weeks back on Twitter. And
Hmm.
I brought it up to you because I had seen this like before a few different times. And like I have I guess, contrarian opinion on this particular topic.
Not
And
contrarian.
yeah, you know me, I be seeing different ways of things. So this is what the topic is. This is what I saw.
Hmm.
So a girl, somebody, um, tweeted, I've always disliked deflection. When you call someone out on something and they have a, yeah, you do it too, or, but what about the time you did this and this? Like, please pick your moment. Don't make my time your moment. And my opinion on that is I have a yes and no on that. Like,
Okay.
yes, it's not, if someone is calling you out on like a behavior, saying that you did something,
Hmm.
you should stop, you should stop and think about it and be like, oh, hey, oh, that wasn't my intention. I'm sorry. I didn't realize whatever comes after that. Right. To have the friendship, the relationship, whatever you got going on, get back on track, to get back on track and into a good space, with it. But I also have an opinion, an opposing opinion on that, which is if you call me out on something and I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't realize this was a problem because you've done this to me in the past. And then you're kind of like, this ain't about what I did. Yes, it is. Yeah, no, actually, it is. Like, you don't get to call someone out, and then now when you're the person being called out, or they're letting you know, illuminating the fact that this is actually something that we both do, you then are feeling like that's a deflection tactic. Like, everything isn't a deflection, and when you're talking to someone, everything should be a conversation. Like, when I hear people say that, I feel like they want to have, just like this girl said, this is not your moment. You want to have a moment. Like, you shouldn't be having moments with people you care about. You should be having conversations and you should be having resolution. So what do you think about my opinion on that, or this opinion in general?
Yeah, no, I think you are spot on in being like, no, that is not how we're going to do this. Um, if you're upset about something, but then your friend is like, okay, I mean, okay, I'm just confused because you do it to everybody else. And that person is all up in airs. That's probably someone who, um, not necessarily self unaware, but doesn't care. So it's like, those are people who are just like, kind of takers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
I
not
can
with
see
it, but
that.
I agree. Like, we're not doing that. And I usually steer away from people like that. I don't,
Yeah.
I do not. Cause I'm just like, excuse me, do you, what you not gonna do? You did this 2 weeks ago and you did this a month ago. Ma'am, get out of my face. Get out of my face.
Right.
And most people do not come to me with that because they know, don't do that.
Right. Right.
But I think it's normal in a lot of friendship dynamics. I will say not in any of my friendship dynamics, but that's on a hand. That's on one hand. And that's probably why, because I don't, excuse me, don't do
Yeah.
that. Because I'll be like, do you know you just did this 2 days ago?
And the
And
thing
if people
about
don't
that
like to be
is,
called out, like, oh, how dare you call me out?
and the thing
Yeah,
about it
I'm gonna
is
call you
like,
out.
they'll also say, like, they'll literally, I've heard it, I've seen it in action, like, well, if you had a problem, you should have said this. Ma'am.
Because those people usually don't allow for a space for things to be said to them.
Right, which is probably why your friend doesn't say it. And I feel
Yeah.
like when, we've talked about this before, like
Mm-hmm.
we both of us have kind of expressed this, like we've done it differently
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
we're not a monolith, we're not one person. But like
Yes.
in our own way, we are learning how to like communicate and be upfront about certain things. And for different reasons, we may not have communicated things with like other friendships or maybe
Mhm.
even with each other in the past, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, I know that I didn't even know this was a thing, but this is what it is. Like I tend to give a lot of grace to people. Like,
Mhm.
so let's say you do something that I don't like, I might be really annoyed, but I'll look at the overall thing. Like I always say this, like
Mhm.
to me, intention matters. Like what your intentions are. So if I feel like you did something, but I genuinely don't feel like your intentions were bad, I won't. I likely won't bring it up. Like I'll just chalk it up to this is a human moment. This is a, you know, like you didn't mean to hurt my feelings, or you didn't mean to annoy me, or you didn't mean to whatever. And I know that, I can tell that, so I let it go. Right. So
Yeah.
I feel like some people are better at giving grace to others. And it's like, I'm just not calling you out on things that you do. Not that you're perfect and you don't do things. I just pick and choose the moments that I feel like are big, and there are moments that I feel like they're small, and I'll let it go. And then there are
Mhm.
other people that like any moment can be a moment, and they are more quick to call people out on stuff and be like, "Well, I don't like when you do this to me. I don't like when something's happening to me." And it's just like, okay, that's fair. But if I say, "Well, you did this to me last week, last month, last year, whenever," I'm gonna need you to sit and absorb that, because then why do you feel like it was okay for you to do it to me? And your rebuttal for that is, well, you should have said something. If you do not like it today, I didn't like it last year. And no, I
Mhm.
didn't say anything about it because I was giving you grace. But now, since you want to bring it up, we're having a conversation about it. This is not a moment that you get to be like, you were wrong. You. Because I feel like those type of people that have that type of rebuttal, or like want to tell you like, no, this is not your moment to do that, they like to just talk at you instead of talk to you.
Mm. Yeah. And that's messed up. Especially if you think y'all are friends. It's like, well, you just clearly don't care about me. That's hurtful. That's what that
Yeah.
is. And unfortunately, if you care about that person, you just gonna end up being on the side of my feelings are hurt. And this person
Yeah.
uh probably don't care.
Right. Right. And
Mm.
I think it's like a not a pick and choose moment. There are certain things like, because sometimes it can be deflection. Some people don't like to hear that they're doing something, so they turn it
Mhm.
around on you. I think it depends on the moment, right? Like, and what's overall happening.
Mhm.
Um, for instance, because I'll bring up one of my quote unquote boundaries that I'll play about it.
Mhm.
So our generation, we grew up, especially our Black people, we grew up with like barbershop with like, who was it? Eve and like Michael Ealy and all them on there, whatever, right?
Ice Cube. You
Ice
missed
Cube.
the
I,
main
I I
person.
forgot who it was. I'm only here for Eve. I forgot
And
who else.
Cedric the Entertainer.
I do
Mhm.
remember that he was there,
Yeah.
but so you know how like Eve's character, she was just really particular about her stuff, and she's like, "Who drank my apple juice? Like you cannot touch her thing." I'm kind of
Yeah.
the same way when it comes to my things. I'm kind of the same way
You
when it comes
are.
to food. Yeah, period.
Mhm.
Like I do not care how anybody else feels. However, let me just say this: that being a boundary for me, like where it's like, okay, you have to ask me for my things. You can't just take things from me. I also ask people for their things. I don't think you can pick up a time where I've ever just helped myself to something of yours without saying, "Hey, Lee, can I have it?" Um, that's a boundary. Like we
Mhm.
define boundaries. Like that's a boundary for me. Boundaries start with you, right? So
Mhm.
if I'm gonna be this person that's like, you can't touch my stuff without asking me, I can't then touch other people's things. And then when they feel like, oh, okay, well, she clearly don't mind because she took she ate my last piece of the sandwich. Drank my last juice. Now I'm sitting here turning around and being like, you need to ask me for my stuff. What, since when? This is not the relationship that we have. Like, how are you
Mm.
sitting here trying to say like, I have to do something now that you never practiced? And that's how a lot of people treat these moments. It's like, they will sit there and do all kinds of stuff to you. Don't think about it. And the moment you do something to them, it's like, don't do that. And it's like, what are you you have done this exact situation numerous times. How was
Yeah.
I supposed to know that this is a problem of yours if you do not exercise this boundary that you so-called have all of a sudden that now it's being done to you? That's not how boundaries work.
And that's asinine to me. But while you were talking it in my head, I was thinking, and this is why you just gotta communicate. When you don't
Mhm.
like something, you just have to. And it's annoying. Like
Yes.
I feel like I am saying something that this is so stupid. I cannot believe I have to say this. But those are the conversations you need to have. And the reason where I come from is like then I'm gonna have to talk to all the people that I have relationships with every day about something. And I feel like they're gonna be telling me like, why do you always want to sit me down and talk to me about stuff? I'm like, because I gotta let you know how I feel. But this is
Yeah.
something I have learned 30s to now 36. Like this wasn't
Mhm.
always like this. And I'm like, but it clicked to me. I was like, you have to communicate. And
Mhm.
I've had conversations with like, I was like, I do not want to have this conversation, but if I don't say this,
They won't know.
then they will not know. And then I'm going to blow up. And what I love to say now is like, you can't say and tell you. I told you.
Right.
You cannot
Right.
say and tell you. Because it's like, they'll never at that point be like, well, I ain't noticed. I said, I remember because I didn't want to have that conversation. But now I have proof. Like, I told you this.
Yeah. And that's why that conversation is a yes and a no for me because I feel
Hmm.
like every friend isn't there. Some people are they just give grace a lot. So they don't make um little things be big things and they just kind
Hmm.
of let you go. But I do agree that like it should be a room where like you should make space, not a room, but you should make space for if somebody says like, oh, if I say like, hey, you did this thing, I don't like it, and then you're like, well, you've done this, the space should be, oh, okay, I didn't even realize I did that to you.
Hmm.
Clearly I don't like it. So, let's moving forward, I won't do this to you. Please don't do this to me. And then we
Right.
kumbaya it out. Like we communicate that. And then, to add to that, to then say, like, hey, and if there's anything that I do that you don't like, please communicate it to me. I don't want you having these like opinions or feeling certain way about me
Yeah.
about certain things and I don't know and I just genuinely don't even know and I think everything's good but in the meanwhile like you felt some type of way whether you kind of brush it off or not I should know that this hurt your feelings or this rubbed you the wrong way or whatever the case may be. So I do agree that like the conversation that people tend to have is like you should have said something. I do agree that we should communicate. Like anytime there's something that makes us uncomfortable or annoys us or whatever the case may be, so that you can have a good relationship moving forward and get past the bump. But
Hmm.
also I'm on the side of like if somebody says, well, you also do that, I feel like the person that opened up the conversation should also have like an ear to listen and not also deflect. Like you feel like that person's deflecting and bringing it back to you, and then you're deflecting from now a bigger situation because obviously both of you guys are doing this exact same thing, and now you're trying to deflect and be like, "Well, I'm gonna shut you down because you should have said that to me last week." No, just
Hmm.
communicate the whole thing and open
Hmm.
up the space to say, "And I would appreciate it going forward. You tell me anytime anything that bothers you, let me know." I
Yeah.
think that's only fair.
I do too. But I think that it's not easy, especially in female friendships, to find your voice.
Hmm.
And a lot of times you don't find your voice until you're in our decade, which is 30s. Because in the 20s, mm-mm. And I
Hmm.
think a lot of times, if you do, you just decide to not talk to that person and just like be like, all right, let me go find another friend.
Right, right. Like someone
Let me go find another friend.
I don't have to have an uncomfortable conversation with.
Yeah.
Um, which I mean, do what works for you, but it's like overall, like
It's a
there
life
should be a
skill though
space
that is good to
to
have.
learn to
It's a life skill
communicate.
to be able to talk to people because you can't just always do that. Because what if you have that
Right,
with your mama? You can't get another mama. You know what I'm saying? Like
right.
people aren't like replaceable 100% of the time. I
Right.
definitely learned that from the pandemic. Like people died, like millions of people died.
Mhm.
And we're going to feel the effects of that in several different ways for probably the rest of our lifetime. I honestly feel that. So if anything, I'm hoping this helps other friends realize that, like, first of all, you're not alone, because both you and I have had that, where it's just like, I mean, do you see who you are? Like, why
Like,
are you coming at me like this?
ma'am. Yeah.
You cannot be mad only when it comes to you and not realize that you, then if by that definition, you don't piss off everybody else in this friend group. And it's
Right.
okay for you to do that to us. But how dare we? Mm-mm. No, because then sometimes it blows up into literal altercations.
Right.
Because people done had it. I done had it with you. I done had it with you.
Like, I done giving you so much grace, and then now I done did one thing, and it's like you coming at me. Like, baby, I'm gonna whoop your ass. Like, no,
It just
I'm not
reminds
on that.
me of a
But
skit that I saw Drewski do, and it always goes to like a Miami trip. It's like, I done had it. Like, I got my own flight back. Like, I don't need none of these girls. Like, forget them. Like, I'm tired of them. Like, and it's hilarious, but it is life imitating art. That didn't come from nowhere. That'd be
yeah,
happening.
it didn't. And you know what I also think of is like there's so
Yeah.
many times that like communication could literally heighten whatever friendships, relationships you have with people if you simply learn to communicate with other people.
Yeah.
Like, because there's so many friendships or relationships, like be it romantic or be it platonic, that literally die because someone or two people don't know how to just sit and listen and try to resolve.
Mm.
Everybody wants to be right. And then it's just like, okay, well, you're wrong. You're wrong. So I'm going to just separate myself from that. And it's just like half the time the situations are so minuscule, they're so small, but you make them big
Mm-hmm.
because you do not want to have a real conversation and you don't want to have real resolution. What you want to have is to portray someone as being the at fault party and you're the person that's like, no, I'm great. Like, no, that's not how that works.
Like
Like,
all
that's
the
not
time you're great. That don't even make sense.
like,
Like if you think about all your whole life, I just be wanting to ask some people like, so okay, maybe I'll let you have it. You're right, but before I do that, I need you to tell me one time you was wrong.
right.
I feel like they
Like,
can't be like, oh, that. I'm like, okay, so then you no, that should tell you that your frame of thinking is not helping you, because you
right,
cannot think that you can't come to one time when you were wrong. Get out of here. Get out of here.
right.
Literally, get out of here.
And I think, like you said, like in our decade, I think in my 30s, I'm so okay with being the quote unquote bad guy. I don't mind people coming to me and saying, hey, you did this.
Uh,
Okay, because I want to grow. I don't mind. Like, we will have a conversation, like we'll get to the root cause of stuff, but it's like I'm not as defensive as I used to be, like in my teens and my 20s, where it's like, no, like, no, I didn't do this. Like, I don't
mm,
mind it now. Like, if you say like, hey, you did this thing that hurt my feelings, I'm gonna say, I'm sorry that I hurt your feelings. It wasn't my intention. This is how I saw it. This is how I felt while I was doing it. And try to facilitate like an actual healthy conversation. But the thing is, I feel like, it's human nature. Like, when somebody comes at you, you want to defend yourself. That's just ingrained in us for survival.
mm.
Like, whether be it a physical or a verbal attack, that's just ingrained in us. But it's like sometimes if we just take a back seat to say, okay, well, clearly you got something to say. What is it that you have to say? You can actually have moments of growth in the friendship as opposed to just being like, where is she coming from with this? Like, all of a sudden you have a problem. Like, no, just stop and listen and be okay with not being the hero in that moment without being the good guy in that moment. Because we're not 100% good. We're not 100% bad. We all make mistakes and we all do things that like aren't favorable for other people.
Mm-hmm. And I will say, I don't see that much in male friendships. I will say, like, in some ways, they hold each other more accountable than we do.
All right, now here you go with the capping for the men's. No.
You don't think so?
No,
And
I
I
think
say that because and the only reason why I say that is because when they have a big argument, they'll fine a few days later.
yeah,
And for us, when we have a big argument, they never talk to each other again.
that's
Or it'd be
true.
years.
That's true. I don't know.
So I
I
just
mean,
wonder, but then they also don't call each other out on important things. So that's what I'm saying in some ways. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, but like maybe that was the wrong way for me to say it, but I'm just like, they don't let things
fester.
like end their relationship. And it, but that could be bad too. I don't know. I don't know where my point was with this.
You just were all
I
over
know.
the board.
I think what forget the whole holding each other accountable, because that's not, I take that back. What I'm saying is they don't let arguments end their relationship. That's what I
Right.
wanted to say.
That I can agree with. Like,
Yes.
I don't think, because I don't think it's because they're so much more mature that they could just
No.
navigate like
No. And they be seeing
conversations.
foul stuff go on and they don't hold each other accountable.
Right.
So no.
It's not that they do that. I think men may be better adept at picking and choosing battles when it comes to stuff. Like,
Uh-huh.
they may be a little bit more like, yeah, okay, that ain't, I don't care. I feel like a lot of times I'd be like, yeah, I don't care enough to let this continue on into a thing. You
Yeah.
feel some type of way, my bad, bro. That was my fault. And which is kind of like what I just said, where it's like, I don't mind being the bad guy. That's my fault. Like, because sometimes you have to go ahead and be the apologetic person to actually move forward. Because if you on the defense and I'm on the defense, where are we going to go? Nowhere.
Yeah.
We're literally not going to go nowhere. And I think men are a little bit in their friendships. I don't know about the relationships part, but I think in their friendships, they are a little bit more better, so to speak, in just being like, oh, you feel
Calming
that way?
down.
Yeah.
Like when they cool down, they be
My
like,
bad. Yeah,
yeah.
my bad, bro. I didn't even mean to do that to you. I shouldn't have done that. And, they move forward. Now, is it always actually resolved? Only they can speak to that,
Yeah, I don't know
but
about that.
on the surface, they be cool and they'll be cool for years.
Yeah, I think they let it go. They just let it go. Maybe they just feel like, well, I got it off my chest.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is. They're like, I don't even care how you feel about it. Like, I'm gonna move on now because I've said it.
Yeah.
Whereas I think with us, like, we want to be right. Like, and I know I can only speak for myself. I love being right. Like, I be wanting to be right, but it's like in real life, I'm not always right, and I have to allow room for somebody else to say, "Well, you did something similar recently, or a year ago, or whenever, and like you never thought nothing of it." I have to be able to to take that and be like, "Oh, dang, okay, I didn't realize, I didn't know, and I'm sorry that I did that to you, because now that you've done it to me, I don't like it. So
Yeah.
I can't imagine how it felt when I did it to you."
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, from where did you say you got it from? You saw
This
this
was on
on.
Twitter, and I've seen this
Okay.
conversation come up numerous times, like whether I'm watching like a video. I've had it come up in conversations with like friends. Like, I've heard it so many times that I was just like, I feel like I want to talk about it.
Yeah. And then if it was another friend venting you probably tell them like you tell me. You'd be like, well, did you tell that person how you feel? And I was like, no, I ain't tell them.
Well, maybe you should
And I'm
start
like, I
there.
should. And I'm like, I should tell them. So yeah, like you have to tell people how you feel.
Yeah.
It's not very
Like, the
easy.
takeaway, I want two takeaways from this. Like, one takeaway being that if you feel some type of way about someone, even if you think it's small, it might be beneficial to go ahead and have the conversation anyway, just because you feel a way about it, because you don't want resentment or contempt to then build into resentment, to then build into something else. But also, another takeaway is to be able to be open enough to, if you are the person presenting someone with something and they're like, well, you've done something similar, or recently you've hurt my feelings and I didn't talk about it. Have your moment where you're like, okay, well, let's address this one and then address the next thing. Don't just shut the other person down, because like you mentioned in the beginning, some people don't leave space for people to feel comfortable having a conversation. And
Oh my
if you shut
goodness.
me
Yeah.
down, and when I'm like, oh, well, this recently happened, or this other thing, why would you expect me to come to you and talk to you when I have a problem with you? You're going to be the last person, because you don't want to hear it. Very clearly, you don't want to hear it.
Yeah. So like for the friends that are listening, if you just listening think that maybe this could apply to you, let it, if it ever comes up next time, like maybe just be like, okay, well, maybe there is some truth to this. And maybe I only care when it's about me, but I've done it to other people. And like,
Mhm.
I can't be like that. I can't just care when it hurts me, but I have no problem doing it to other people.
Right.
Yeah. And honestly, like we've seen that in different shows growing up. There tends to be a friend that the other friends let them get away with murder.
A good show that kind of highlights that is Girlfriends. They used to let Tony do anything, like
Anything.
because she always
She
had the
was
personality of like I don't really care, so she would do anything. And when Joan started
anything.
being more selfish with herself, everybody looked at Joan like you're being different, and it's like well, y'all let Tony do this all the time.
And actually, she was one of the examples that I was thinking about when I just made that point, and you explained that she was an example. Except for Maya. Maya used to get in her ass.
Right, and
Maya
there's
used to
always
get in her
going to be that one
ass.
friend that's like, girl, ain't nobody
But
going for that.
yeah, everybody else used to relent. And then another example I'm thinking about recently is Jen Shah from Salt Lake City Housewives. She is insane. I mean, she could do everybody wrong, but how dare anybody ever call her out? We're not talking about me, and you're gonna do this. It's just like
they
I mean, those
always
women
deflect.
are literally scared of her. For what I do not know, I don't understand this. And then the latest season, there was this one lady wasn't with her shit at all. She was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, you're not a nice person, and I think you talk to everybody like crap." And Jen was like, like heart attack, like, you just gonna call me out like that?" And she's like, "Yes." Now, mind you, could be good that she was about to go to jail. So that lady said, you have just been outed as a criminal. But she was the only one. And she's new. These people that have been around her for years, it's like kind of like a cult following. Some
Mm-hmm.
people have this thing about them that their people will follow them into
Mm-hmm.
everything. And I think that
Right.
is wild. And I
It
pray I'm never
is.
like that. Because I don't want to say that could never be me. I'm just saying, I pray. It hasn't been me yet. I just pray it stay that way. Because you
Right.
never know. You never know.
Yeah.
But that's wild to me.
No, I mean it
Mm-mm.
is, but I think it's always the people that are a little bit like more on the charming side or whatever, and it's like for whatever reason, like they end up being able to cultivate like really loyal people around them. That's just like, oh no, that's just that person. That's how they
Like
are. They
they get a
don't mean
pass
anything.
for
Yeah,
everything.
they
How do
don't
they
mean
get a
anything by
pass?
it. I don't. And then there's other people that you're just like, even though like you always be in my corner, you have my back, you did this one thing and I'm not gonna let that slide. And it's like how this other person that turned into Trick Daddy the way they was slipping and sliding all over everything like for years. And then I do one thing and it's like, no. Like how does that work?
I've seen it happen a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Some
It does
people just have
happen.
this thing where they're just like, they get away with murder.
Mm-hmm.
And if they wanted to be, they could be cult leaders. Like they could be leaders of churches.
Yeah.
Because that should be studied.
I'm
Because
sure they do study it. We're just not following up on it.
and
But
I'm just like, absolutely not. I don't give a damn. I don't care. Luckily, that has been my personality, but that doesn't mean it'll always be like that because,
and the thing
you
is I
know,
feel like people that
I
have
wish
that
someone would.
personality, I feel like people that have that kind of personality where they get away, it's because they've always just they live life so on their own terms in that it's like it's either you accept it or you don't. And if for some reason and they always do enough to where like you're like, "Oh, that's my friend." So it's like they'll do something that's
Yeah.
80% really good for you, like, and you're like, dang, this person's in my corner. They got me, like, they did this, this, and this. And then when they kind of switch and have that, like, I'm not
They're
showing up for
snakes.
this.
It's snakes. It's snake
Yeah.
charming.
Yeah.
That's
It's
what it
snake
is.
charming.
Oh,
Yeah.
so maybe they're not, are they the snakes or they're the snake charmer? They're the snake charmer and they charm snakes.
Maybe.
Something, I don't know. But it is. It's like you're still dealing with a snake though, and they bite
Hmm.
you. So it's probably a snake.
I
That
can't even
is
tell you what it is,
interesting.
but it's
The
like they always
psychology.
have like a something with their personality where they do their own thing, and people, it's like it's almost like people adore them for doing their own thing. So even when it's something that negatively impacts you, you're just like, well, they always do their own thing. And then it's the friends or the people, however they are actually in your life that are more dependable. They're the ones that you hold like so high that if they make a mistake, like even the slightest thing,
Yeah,
you're
they give
like,
you a
no,
pass.
like, no, you're like, I'm not going to give you a pass because you have always done this. How dare you deviate and have a human moment? But the people that have the human moments all the time, that's just like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm going to do me. You're so used to them doing me that you're just kind of like, that's just them. They just do them.
And you know what? I take it back. I kind of have been charmed by someone before. And what it is they do things that are like super nice. And you're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, and they make it so personal to you. Like, I did this just for you.
Mm-hmm.
You.
Mm-hmm.
And then like you fall in love, for lack of a better term. It's not really like falling in love, but like you become enamored with, you feel close to them.
Mm-hmm.
And
You
then
feel special to them.
you feel special. That's what it is. Thank you, friend. So then you feel special. You think y'all got something good. And then they do something to hurt
And it's
you.
like, and you keep trying to chase
And it's
back
like,
that
oh, that
moment.
hurt. But they were so nice to me this one time. So you
keep chasing
like,
that moment
yes,
where they were
that
nice to
moment,
you,
that first moment.
and
And then
they'll
that
teeter
person
back and
has
forth,
control. Yeah, that
and they'll
person has
teeter back
control.
and
And
forth.
when they
They'll
feel
do
like it, they'll be
something.
nice to you again.
I
It's
was
so
about to say
crazy.
that. I was about to say that. Like, they'll have their moments where it's like they are just anything you want, anything you need. I got you. I got you. Whatever it is that they do.
Yeah.
Then there's a period of time where it's like you can barely count on them for anything, and so you're kind of at that place where you're like, okay, whatever. Then they come back and they put it back on like super strong, and
Yeah,
you're like,
they pursue you because I was minding my own business. Wasn't even think about this person.
no,
And
it's like,
so then after a while, it's just like, but then I was like, you know what? Never mind. And then that's it.
mm-hmm.
You could come, you could try it. Don't come back. And if you
And
do, I'm just gonna tell you, why are you here? Like I said, don't come back.
yeah, and those
Because
are
no,
the
you've
type
been
of
trying
people.
me. You've been trying me.
And those are the type of people, like, they're so for themselves that they are the ones that will always call you out on something because they are
No,
used
this
to,
person never called me out.
you know.
Mm-mm.
Well, that's
Because
good.
they knew. Yeah, I guess maybe that's
Well,
one
your
thing.
personality is
Yeah,
like, girl,
I'm like,
leave
don't do
this.
that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But, and actually, does that person call other people out? Maybe only the ones they think they can, but not really. Not really. That's not her MO. But yeah, charmer for sure.
Yeah. So, needless to say, everybody,
Uh-huh.
when to get back to the original plot, because we done went down a
Yeah.
little rabbit hole. To facilitate good conversations and to have growth in your friendships, like, be open to, if you're calling someone out and they're like, whoa, hey, since this conversation is happening, let's just discuss this more, like you've done this before. Be open to that. And also, number one, be okay with telling people, like, when you're not fond of something. Like, don't hold on to that and then try to use it later. Like, it's not cool to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah, girl, you can't call me out when I try to call you out. Don't do that.
Right. Like, so let's grow from this. Let's learn to communicate, and let's be open to actual communication and not just wanting to call people out and be like, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. And I don't want to hear anything else after me saying that you're wrong. All right.
Yeah.
So that's what I had to say on that. I think we have like a very similar viewpoint on that, but I'm curious to know what our friends have to say. So hit us up at Honestly Friends Pod on Instagram and let us know. Thank you, and bye,
Until next
friends.
time.
Later.